Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video. I'm really excited to see you back again for another one. We just had an important day pass us by in April. Now I'm curious, can anybody tell me what that day is? Let me know in the comment section below. If you mentioned April Fools, unfortunately, that's not the day that I'm talking about. So the day that I'm referring to is tax day. Now, not because you obviously have to get all your taxes paid by that particular day if you have not filed an extension, but more importantly, it's actually the last day that you can contribute to an account. And that specific account that I'm referring to is a Roth IRA. Now, what makes a Roth IRA so special? We're going to tackle that in today's video. Now, before we go ahead and tackle what a Roth IRA is and what makes it so special, make sure you go ahead and like the video. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on that notification bell so that way you're notified whenever we post videos to the channel. And don't forget to share this video with a family member or friend, so that way they can understand how important it is to have one of these accounts. So let's jump into it. What makes a Roth IRA so special? When I am trying to tackle a complicated subject and there's a lot of information to learn, I like to break things up into what I call the 5 W's, right? And we do that in reading, and it's no different here. So the 5 W's of a Roth IRA: who, what, where, when, why. So let's start with what. What is a Roth IRA? Now, in order to understand what a Roth IRA is, there's 2 words that describe this account: Roth and IRA. So let's look at the last word, IRA. What does that stand for? IRA stands for Individual Retirement Account. It's an account in which you can put money into either pre or post-tax. Now, the money grows either tax deferred or tax-free for your retirement. Now, keep in mind, there's 2 types of account. One, like I mentioned, is the IRA. So it's just a regular traditional IRA, so individual retirement account. And the other one now, which we're going to discuss in this video, is the Roth. But if you're interested in understanding the differences between a Roth IRA and a traditional IRA, leave a comment in the comment section below. And if enough folks are interested, I'll go ahead and make a video so we can look at the differences between the 2. So now that we've tackled the first part, which is individual retirement account, let's tackle the first word, which is Roth. What does that mean? Now, in order to understand the Roth part, there's a little bit of a history lesson that I'd like to give you, so that way you can understand how we got to this point. So Roth is a designation for the individual retirement account, and it's named after Senator William Roth. So the question is, who is Senator William Roth? Senator Roth represented Delaware for 3 decades. Very long time. He was a huge proponent of having a Roth IRA, and it made its way into our tax code in 1997. And during that time, it was actually called the Taxpayer Relief Act of 1997. Now, I actually kind of like this guy after doing some research and understanding who he was. Senator Roth was a huge proponent of lower taxes and limited government, something that I think is very, very important in order for us to be successful. He was a relentless tax cutter, and he was a warrior against government waste, something that I wish some of our politicians were able to do nowadays. Now, Senator Roth served as the chair of Senate Governmental Affairs Committee, and while he actually served on that committee, it was actually interesting because he was famously known for calling out a bunch of waste within government spending. And just to name some of those government waste, the US Navy actually was purchasing toilets for $640 and wrenches for $9,600. I don't know about you, but buying $700 toilets and $10,000 wrenches is a huge waste of our taxpayer dollars. Think about how hard you work for your money, and then you have to pay taxes on it, and this is what our government is spending money on. Complete waste of taxes. And this is why Senator Roth was so special, because he was a proponent of calling out the government waste and making sure that us as individuals have lower federal taxes. The name of Roth IRA, how that came to be, was as early as 1989, Senator Roth and another individual by the name of Senator Bob Packwood, they introduced an IRA at the time that was called the IRA Plus. An IRA Plus allowed for people to put in money, and specifically after tax, into these accounts, and the accounts would grow tax-free. And so when people got to retirement, because they paid taxes long ago, they actually get to pull the money out without having to pay any taxes on that particular money, including the growth, which is something very special. Now, in the beginning, when Senator Roth and Senator Packwood introduced the IRA Plus, not a lot of people gave it too much attention, and it wasn't gaining the traction that it needed. But shortly after a few years, the idea started to gain momentum because Republicans actually started to control both sides of the House of Congress. Now, unfortunately, before the Taxpayer Relief Act of 1997, Senator Packwood resigned from Congress due to sexual misconduct allegations that were on the horizon. Now that Senator Packwood resigned from Congress, it really left only Senator Roth as the main architect for this IRA Plus account. And so when the bill was passed, the IRA Plus changed its name to Roth IRA in order to honor Senator William Roth for the work that he put in making sure that the American public can be able to take advantage of this account for retirement. So with that little bit of a history lesson out of the way, let's wrap up again just to make sure that we're all on the same page. So a Roth IRA is an individual retirement account, and specifically the Roth portion of it means that you're going to take after-tax dollars invested into this individual retirement account, and then as the account grows, you were able to pull out money from that account during your retirement years without having to pay any taxes because you paid taxes on the initial investment. Very cool. Now on to who can use an IRA. Now, most people don't know this. They actually think that you have to do something in order to qualify for this Roth IRA. But in fact, it's actually as simple as anyone can qualify as long as they have an earned income. Even though anyone with an earned income qualifies for a Roth IRA, the government actually does impose limits. Specifically, there is contribution limits and also there's income limits. So it's always best to take a look at what that is so that way you can understand where you fall. So let's take a look at an example of what that looks like. So as an example, for calendar year 2022, you can contribute up to $6,000 if you're below the age of 50. And if you're above the age of 50, they actually have what's called a catch-up contribution, which is $1,000 more for $7,000 total. But before we can actually put that kind of money into the account, you also have to look at, do you fall within the income limits that will allow you to put money into the account? Specifically, $7,000 if you're over the age of 50, or $6,000 if you're below the age of 50. So looking at the chart here from the IRS website, you can see that if you're married filing jointly, or you're a qualifying widow or widower, and you make less than $204,000, you can contribute up to the limit. So in this case, as I mentioned, $6,000 if you're under the age of 50, and $7,000 if you're over the age of 50. Another example, if you're filing single, head of household, or married filing separately, and you make less than $129,000, you can also contribute up to the limit. Now I'll put a link in the description where you can actually go ahead and see this chart to understand what that looks like. And make sure that you're referencing for the right year as well, because it changes due to inflation year over year. Now here's something that's also special. Let's say that you are married, you and your spouse can also contribute to a Roth IRA separately. So instead of having $6,000 working for you, you can have $12,000 working for you. So it's another benefit for families to be able to save for their retirement. Now links will be in the description on how you can find contribution limits and also as well income limits for a Roth IRA. Now make sure that you're clicking the right calendar year for your particular case. Now on to the next W, where? Where can I get a Roth IRA? You can open up an IRA at any institution that has received IRS approvals to offer IRAs. Now, there are many popular institutions out there that will offer you a Roth IRA. So I'll name a few just to give you some examples. And no, they do not sponsor me. So if they ever see this video, go ahead and send me a check for making the recommendations. So some of those institutions are Vanguard, Fidelity, Charles Schwab. Now on to the next W is when. When can you get a Roth IRA? Now pay close attention to this one because this is what I was explaining earlier, that you only have one opportunity to get a Roth IRA each year. And unfortunately, if you miss it forever. So you can sign up for a Roth IRA at any given time throughout the year, but you have a limited window of when you can contribute to that Roth IRA. So as an example, let's say I sign up for a Roth IRA in December of 2022. And let's say, for example, I'm a single guy and I make under the contribution limits. So in this particular scenario, we can contribute up to $6,000. But here's the thing, you only have the ability to contribute $6,000 starting from December of when you opened the account all the way until the last day, which is April. Specifically in 2023, the tax day was April 18th. So meaning you have only that short window to contribute the $6,000. So it's very, very important that you sign up for the account as soon as possible and make sure that you're contributing to it. So that way it's not a burden to you in order to put so much money into the account in order to get to that $6,000 as a single guy who falls under the income limits. Hey guys, so I want to have a little bit of fun here, and I wanted to take a look at this Roth IRA calculator from bankrate.com. And I'll leave a link in the description in case you're interested in playing around with the calculator. But in the scenario that I just talked about, we were talking about how we can open up a Roth IRA and we can fund the account, and we only have a certain amount of time to do that. So again, I want to have a little fun here, and I want to show you what this account is going to cost you if you decide not to open up the account and decide not to plan for your future, because unfortunately, I know a lot of people who are actually in this boat. We're going to play around with a little bit of numbers here. And again, this is our calculator, and we're going to pretend that we have no money in our account, meaning we're starting from zero. We just got out of college. We're a young guy, right? 21 years old. We're looking to put in $6,000 annually, which we just talked about, which is the contribution limits for 2023. Now, keep in mind, this is going to be just estimates because there's a lot of things that are going to change over the year. You have contribution limits that change because of inflation over time, so it's not always going to be $6,000. Also, keep in mind that rate of return changes and it can vary. So this is not to be exact, but it does give you a good estimate of what not having this account would cost you. So moving forward, let's say we're looking to retire at age 65, so that looks good. Our rate of return is going to be 10%. And our marginal tax rate, this actually is not as important for now, given that our marginal tax rate affects us when we are trying to learn about taxable accounts. So for an example, an individual retirement account. We are interested in a Roth IRA. So if you've been following us, again, taxes are paid up front, and then you can take the money out tax-free later on. So if you're interested in learning more about marginal tax rates, you can scroll down. They have a section here that explains what marginal tax rates are. And there's also a table here that'll assist you in figuring out what your marginal tax rate is. So again, we're interested in the Roth IRA portion, so we're not going to concern ourselves with the marginal tax rate. Of course, we're going to maximize our contributions because we want to make sure that we have all the money going into our Roth IRA. And let's hit calculate and see what we get. And you have a whopping $4.8 million, almost $5 million in your account for retirement. And remember, we talked about this is money that you don't have to pay taxes on because you paid the taxes before you put the money into the account. So how awesome is that to have all this money in your retirement? Whereas most people that I know, they can't put away, let's say, for example, $6,000 a year, which is $500 a month. They can't put that away because they have more in car payments, for example, than they do putting away for their retirement. So this is just an example of how much not having a Roth IRA can cost you. Now, let's just say I'm half wrong and you don't have 10% rate of return. You get 5% rate of return. As you can see here, you still have $1.1 million for your retirement. Now, if you were doing the math with me, in both cases, whether we got 10% rate of return or 5% rate of return, we only put in $264,000 over a 44-year period. And that's assuming that we don't put any more than just $6,000. So in the case where we had almost $5 million, and even till this case where we had $1.1 million, depending on how much our rate of return was, we only put away $264,000, and we had that much of a spread in growth, which I think is also incredible. So the main lesson here that I hope that you're getting from this is open up your IRA and get started for your retirement because you're going to need it in the future. So let's jump into the last W, and that is why get an IRA? Specifically, a Roth IRA. So we all know what the account is for, right? It's an individual retirement account. It's literally exactly what it's called. It's an account to take care of yourself for those later years in life, which is your retirement. Now, when you get to your retirement, those are your later years of life. And since you won't be working and generating income, at least I hope you're not forced to work, you have to make sure that you have income coming in order to support you, even though you're not going to be working during those later years of life. Now, unfortunately, there's a lot of Americans who don't prepare for their retirement, and they leave it in the hands of either relatives, which is always not a great plan, and an even worse fate is leaving your retirement plans in the hands of the government. Now, in order to see how crucial this account is, let's take a look at some of the spending that the United States government does in order to see that leaving your fate, meaning your retirement years, in the hands of the government is a really, really horrible idea. Up on my screen here from cbpp.org It's a really cool website that shows us where most of our federal tax dollars go. And if you recall what I was previously mentioning, that leaving your retirement into the hands of the government is a really, really bad idea. And here's why. So as we can see here on the website, we have most of our tax dollars. Where are the categories in which it goes? Defense spending, which is 13%, Social Security, 21%, and healthcare, which is 25%. Those are the top 3 categories in which our federal tax dollars go to. So let's jump into defense spending. Here is another great website called macrotrends.net, and this shows us the U.S. military spending budgets from 1960 to 2023. So that's pretty interesting. And if we scroll down and take a look at where we started, we see here that in 1960, we had a spending budget of $47.35 billion in defense. Now, let's fast forward several decades later, and we're in 2021, you can see that our defense spending has been $800 billion. That's a huge increase. With defense spending out of the way, let's take a look at what Social Security looks like. So here we have Social Security, at least the history of Social Security. And as you recall, Social Security was 21% of our federal tax dollars. So one of the things that I wanted to show you guys here is the ratio of covered workers to beneficiaries. And this actually can be found on ssa.gov. So one of the things that we can see here in the charts, in 1940, you had 35,390 workers putting money into the system, of which only 222 beneficiaries were receiving Social Security. So a ratio of 159.4, a very strong and healthy ratio. A couple of decades later, you can see here in 2013, you had 163,221 people putting money into the system. And then you had 57,471 people receiving benefits. So meaning that you had 2.8 is the ratio. So translation, we keep giving out more in benefits than what we're actually putting into the system, which is actually really scary at the rate that we're spending money. So meaning more of your federal tax dollars is going out in benefits. Now let's take a look at health insurance, which is 25% of their federal spending. Again, we're on macrotrends.net, and we can see the healthcare spending from 2000 till 2023, so 23 years. And if we take a look at 2019, per capita, we were spending $10,921 on healthcare spending, compared to in the 2000s, we were spending $4,543 per capita on healthcare spending. The big takeaway here is that we're spending more money over time in order to take care of people. And this makes sense because people are living longer. And this also ties into our Social Security, where people are living longer, therefore they're taking out more money out of the system than what they're putting in. The big picture that we're trying to project here is that our top 3 spending of defense 13%, Social Security 21%, and health insurance of 25%, that is rising over time, and we're spending more and more over the years. We're not going to say this is not important and we're not going to put money in there, but what we are trying to say is after 40 years of working, maybe even more, 40 plus years of working, we've contributed into this system of federal tax dollars, and we've been spending the money on defense, Social Security, health insurance, and other items. Over time, it will cost us more because people are living longer. We have to spend more money on their health care. And because they're living longer, there's more years that they're going to actually be receiving Social Security. So spend is going to keep going up. And as you saw with the trend of defense spending is going to continue to go up as it has for many decades before. So that's why the Roth IRA account is very crucial. So that way when you get into your retirement years, the money is for you and what you need it for, rather than for the government in order to fund these programs.
So now that you know how the government spends so much money on some of the things that it has in its agenda, the question is, do you really want to be funding that in the years that you are actually not working, meaning you're really, really relying on this money? And that is why having tax-free money in your retirement years, meaning you don't have to contribute your money, at least from this account, into that agenda, that is why it's so critical for you to have this account when you get to your retirement years. All right, guys, so that wraps it up for this video. So hopefully you understood the 5 W's around Roth IRAs. I really hope that this video has taught you something. And quite frankly, this is not a conversation that I had growing up, and I had to learn this the hard way. So my hopes is that you learn, and now that you learned, go apply the knowledge, because again, knowledge without action is actually useless knowledge. Don't forget to give me a like for the video if you learned something. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on your notifications so you're notified whenever we upload new content to the channel. And lastly, don't forget to share the video with a family member or friend. You don't want them losing so much money in their later years, and having the information is critical to their success. So I look forward to seeing you all in the next video. We're excited to announce that we're doing financial mentoring and financial coaching. In the description, you'll find links for the financial coaching and financial mentoring session. But once you click those links, it'll take you directly to our calendar. Now, this calendar has the most up-to-date information where you can book a session with us, and you can put in your information such as your name, email, and a brief summary as to what we need to know before we get started. It will automatically send you a calendar invite with your preferred method of contact, and we can sit down together and get you on a path for financial success. So I hope to see you for your next financial coaching and mentoring session.